Alright, we're going to go over this ring gear real quick, and I'm going to explain why I'm coming to the conclusion that I'm coming to. But first I want to explain my thought process before diving in. If you take a look at this ring gear, it's got a convex, like this side of the spoon is a convex, and it's got a concave. So essentially just like a spoon, convex, concave. So the convex side is your drive side. So this side here is your drive side, and this side here is your coast side. Now with that being said, I'm going to bring you down closer to this ring gear where you'll be able to see the same thing that I'm seeing. Okay, so you know how when I was driving, whenever I put a load on it, it's when the whine would really start, and when I let off it, it would go away. Mainly when I get on and off the gas, when it loads up. That's usually a pinion ring wear issue. Was going, when I stepped on the gas, it was putting load on the convex drive side of this ring gear. When I let off it, the load would go to the coast side. Now if you look, you can see where it's dark from here on over. It's dark from here on over. That's a pretty good wear pattern, and it's not dug down deep. Everything looks like it's nicely worn, and that was set up relatively close from the get-go. However, if we turn to the other side and we look at the drive side, it's showing wear from one end to the other, and a lot of wear out on the ends. I can actually hang up on that. It's actually riding off. Talking with the owner a little bit, he was having some difficulties with the property that he's building a house on, and he was using this truck to pull some stuff out, and he got stuck a numerous amount of times and was beating it back and forth, and also used it to pull out stumps, and he was kind of using it as an off-road tractor, I guess you can call it. And I don't know, as you can see, something on this drive side has really taken a beating, and I'm not sure if it was from that extra load being put on it this past year, or if it was simply something done during setup. But seeing this tells me that their setup was pretty close. I guess it was riding a little high. So I'm assuming once we pull out that pinion, we'll get it over to the bench and we'll take a closer look at that as well. But I believe you're going to find a badly worn pinion. Alright, before I pull this out, I'm going to give you a shot on what I just found, or what I just noticed. Look how deep that drive side is worn down on that pinion. You see on the front of that pinion gear, we have 3.010. That's pretty much 3 inches 10 thousandths. I actually measured this, and I'll show you the setup that I use. There's a bunch of different centerline devices you could buy and purchase. I actually copied a set about a year ago, and I still have the pieces, so we'll be using that setup to do that. But there's a little bit more equation that goes into it, but it's cheap, you can build it, and it's accurate. Alright, so this is 1 1/8 inch. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a little loose. It doesn't have no new Baron preload on it, like 15 inch-pounds or whatever it calls for. I gotta look it up. But it's also not loose, man. That is pretty darn good. I'm making it look easier, but it actually still has something. Not very much, but it's something. Whew. Yeah. All right. I didn't think so. We're gonna have to use a puller. So, got myself some longer bolts. Make sure you're nice and deep.
She likes it nice and deep.
Where's your mind? Alright. Now we're just going to screw it. She's coming out easier than I thought. Stop by your head. Alright, there she is. Now, sometimes these could be a little tight coming out. There's no way I'm going to reuse this pinion anyhow, but there she goes. Alright, I'm just going to reach in there, pull that out like so. That's what they call a crush collar. That's what sets your preload. You crush this down, keep on tightening it. You'll see it once we start putting it back together. I was referring to, see how deep it's cutting in. You see the ledge, it's extremely worn. Yet you come over to the coast side, it's still smooth. And you see where our ride marks are. Looks pretty decent. So if I would have went and tightened everything up, it would have drove this in tighter. Then it would have started cutting into the coast side as well. As far as the backlash, they ran it maybe a little too close on the tighter tolerance, but you could tell it was pretty close to the right pinion depth. We're extremely worn down on the drive, so there really isn't much we could have did with this to save it other than what you see us doing now, and that's going to be replacing the ring and pinion. Alright, well, Tammy brought up a good question after I turned the camera off, of course.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm just glad you asked it, because if you're wondering, I'm certain somebody else is asking the same question, because I said before that the convex was drive and the concave was coast. But if you could imagine the convex side being a drive, the convex is going to have to go into a concave.
Right.
And then vice versa.
Okay, I understand now.
So that because on the pinion, the convex or the concave becomes the drive, and the convex becomes
Coast.
the coast. All right, next we're going to knock out the races. Well, plus the outer bearing, I guess you'd call it. There's a seal and everything still attached to it. But if I knock everything out this way, it's going to knock the seal out and everything in one shot. We could simply go over there and pop the seal. But as you can see, there's a notch where you get right to that inner race. We're going to take ourselves a long chisel or a punch. Seal. Oh, there goes the bearing and the seal up there. You see it on the floor?
Yep.
All right. I'm actually gonna knock the race out. There goes the race. Pretty much the same deal for the inner bearing race. Okay, now the rear center section, I could say, is essentially torn down completely. Everything minus the axle bearings, which I'm going to do, but I'm going to make a later video on doing them because that's a whole nother process in itself. And it's actually a pretty simple one, to be honest with you. Today we're going to focus on just rebuilding the center section. Carrier is all degreased and pressure washed. Let's tear it down. All right, the way this carrier is set up, you can actually probably almost pull this with a regular jaw puller. Actually, it might work better than a bearing splitter. So let me take a measurement here for you. I already did this once, but it's roughly right around 2.30 plus or minus. Then I got the shaft collar that'll fit through that inner race. So this is just stuff I'm mocking up. And I'm going to use this heavy washer. And like I said, it looks like you could get this with a regular puller if you really wanted to. Never seen a shim underneath the side carrier like that. That's weird. Alright. And you can almost cut these with a pair of dikes, these cages, or you could just take a cutoff wheel, and either way, 6'1", half a dozen more. We're going to try to achieve something similar with a bearing splitter. Now, I don't have the correct cross piece for this. The one I have is a little too short. Well, I wasn't expecting that setback. I could have swore I had all my tools on site. However, we're going to have to back up a little bit.
Do you want me to see if we have any bigger pieces?
I don't.
Longer? No.
I don't. I checked. I'm done with it. This is just a cheap pair of dikes I don't really care about. I just want to show you that you can cut them. Once you get that top one cut, can you get me a screwdriver, please? Mm-hmm. I'll show you. Just like that. Now, of course, you don't want to use your precision pair of dikes that cost $150 to do that with. But once you get a couple out, you're good. Smooth sailing. Or you can simply take it. Cut that bottom piece like that. That's how they normally cut for me. Yeah. I have a trash can nearby. Now I'm gonna get this for you. Yeah, there's some kind of retaining compound in there. I can see it. And there's a shim underneath that race. I've seen that before, and I bet you this thing's, I don't know. I don't know. At this point, I don't even know if this carrier is worth saving, because it's already getting the best of me, to be honest with you. But I was thinking about going to the yard and getting a used rear. The housing looks good on this rear, honestly does. And if I got a used rear, I'm gonna have to take it apart and change the ring and pinion, no matter what, to match the ratio of the front rear. Because the front rear has the same ratio as this, and it's not stock. I think you guys probably follow where I'm at. If I could save this carrier, that'd be good. If I could just get another, I don't know. I don't want to make any assumptions yet. I just gotta keep digging. But finding stuff like this is never good. But usually this way, grabbing this upper lip will get it off. Alright, now we should be able to get the original design back in. It's going to take me a little while to mock this contraption up. So I want to try to keep that bolt centered. Well, needless to say, the puller was too short to reach across this side as well. So we're going to have to make do with some heavy block washers. I'm almost tempted to use an impact gun on this. Sometimes that little extra vibration. I know it's not good for the tools, but okay. Once again, there's somebody out there saying, no, you're gonna ruin your threads. You're probably right. Sometimes that little vibration helps jack that bearing off. And I can do it by hand now. I can feel it getting. That's it. Show what I want to do. And look at this for the record. Still works. And it got the job done. And what did I tell you? Right there, that's that bearing Loctite. And there's that, a shim. What the frig? Why would there be a shim on this side? I've done a lot of rears, and I've never seen a shim under a side carrier. Oh gosh. Not liking what I see here. Somebody had problems here once before. Once upon a time, this spun an inner race. Definitely wasn't with this set of bearings, because you can see, I'm not sure if you can see, that one hasn't spun. But you can see what they did. I see what they did now. If you zoom in, can you see how an inner race must have spun and dug down into that housing? And it left probably a good 40 thousandths. Someone tried to make it flush again with that shim, which is a decent idea in a, you know, a quick fix if you're going back to it. Man, it just keeps getting worse, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to inspect that rear housing a little bit more. Oh, this is a tough call. I wish I could just get a whole nother rear for it. But then I'm going to have to try to find U-bolts, shackle bolts, that long. And this thing's on my lift and it's holding it up. I'm not saying it's right to try to rush through something and justify it for that reason. But when's enough's enough, you know? Just noticed something else. Look at that. Another telltale sign. Whoever did this kind of knew what they were doing. And this guy's had this truck for 5 years. So it's not like someone just built this. They got a little time out of this. Probably more time than maybe they intended. That's another thing that's telling me that rear housing is most likely good, because I don't think they would have got this much more time out of it if it wasn't. But you see all those little dots there? They're indents. And if I were to do this again, I'd have to indent it one more time. Because what they do, this is an old practice I've seen done many times on spun bearings. This might have been bought secondhand as a package to put in, I'm assuming. I don't know. But only because it says OK on the side of it. I've seen that written there too. So who knows, if you bring this to some shops, they have center sections that are built with the gear ratios just ready to slap in. You know, they pull the one out of the truck, put in one that's already over just for a quick turnaround, and then they have someone in a teardown. It's a whole, it's a common practice a lot of times. So this could have been out of a different rear, and then jerry rigged together like this and sold. So what I'm seeing here is an attempt to keep the inner bearing race from spinning, and it must have been a pretty successful attempt, because you've seen how hard that pressed, or that was to pull off. It took quite a bit of force. So what somebody did, like you've seen before, it's worn down into the housing. So they placed a shim in there to try to take up that space and give it something flush, you know, to seat down against. And then they took and they center punched a bunch of different sections. And you can actually see where the center punches hit, it flared the metal out. So the metal has to displace someplace. I'll give you a little demonstration. Just like that. Now when I put that, it's pretty soft metal, so when I put that center punch in there, it flared out around that punch. Now if you do that in an evenly spaced manner, when you press the new bearing on, it's going to have all that metal that's taking up that space that where the previous bearing wore. And I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what the attempt was, and evidently it worked for at least 5 years that we know of. You see this performed in rebuild shops a lot. And like I said, I came from one. And you see some shady stuff sometimes. And this is one of the things you see, and sometimes what you do. If I could find a whole nother rear, I might go that way. But I'd have to see how long it would take me to get a new set of shackle bolts, U-bolts, because those are massively long, and it's not something that you're going to get stock. There's no sense of pulling this apart anymore until I find out whether or not I could get one. And plus I got to run this by the owner, because I don't feel comfortable putting it together like this. Okay guys, so here's the deal. Located another rear at a local salvage yard, and everything looks great. It feels great. Everything looked to be fine at the yard. We pulled the back cover off it. It's in good shape. It hasn't been molested. Get it back here to the shop, and I take a closer look after it's removed from the vehicle, and this one axle tube is extremely corroded in this one section. Man, this is so disheartening, because I had planned coming here today and actually rebuilding this one. We're over 50% through that tube. And it's almost like this all the way around. See how it's tight on the tube on both sides, but in the center, you see that massive air gap? That's how far down it's rotted away. All through here. It almost sounds like I could poke through the tube at that spot. Oh God. Why? Like I said guys, this rear feels fantastic. Very little, you see right there, very little backlash, and it feels good on both directions. So I'm going to pop the axles out and get that carrier over to the bench. Shouldn't be any oil in it. No metal, no nothing in this rear. Some of the worst smelling gear oil you'll ever smell. Gosh. So like I said, guys, I don't want it falling apart. So we're going to take and slide this pin back through because I'm not rebuilding that center section. We're just replacing the bearings and ring gear. So I'm telling you that right now because it looks fantastic. Just in case something else goes wrong and I end up putting this rear end, we're going to take and mark these caps. I'm going to mark this side 1, this side 2. I just have a habit of counting left to right. I don't know why that is not the same. This rear is in good shape. Once again, we're going to keep the shims because you never know. You never know. I want to feel how tight, because I know that these ones held up, you know what I mean? And where I struggle a little bit is knowing when I got the right preload on the side bearings. I think the pinion's actually easier to set up than the preload on the side bearings, on the carrier bearings. It's actually a little looser than I usually build them. I usually gotta tap that last shim in. I don't know what you guys are doing all the way over here. Don't be so bashful. Believe it or not, the guys at the yard knew the guy that owned this truck and said they took really good care of it. And damn, I wish that axle tube wasn't rusted like that. This would be going in that truck for certain. However, it is what it is, and I am not taking a chance with that. My luck, I'll put it together, he'll be towing his camper or something and the freaking tube will break. Or it'll just start leaking. I don't know. But it's that unknown that's scaring me. So as long as everything goes together smooth over there, we'll be just as fine. It cocks inside the housing. We put them in together. Okay. Now I got a good feel for what the preload should be on this. That's enough preliminary investigations here. I'm going to take this out and bring it over to the bench. There she is. Whoa, brought you something, bud. Look what I found. It looks, this stuff that they use turns everything black. That dark stuff actually comes right off. Alright, I cleaned it up. Let's do a little comparison side by side. What you'll notice right off the bat is that the gear is much different. I'm assuming there is some kind of standard. So as they got smaller with the pinion, they got larger with the ring. You know, the pinion gear, as you took teeth away, it kind of got smaller. So then the ring gear had to come out to match it. That way they stayed close to the same tolerance as the original frame, or the original dimensions, I guess you could say. Plus or minus a few thousand. 9.75 F-75W 4205, 4205. All the numbers matched. We gotta start tearing this one down. I shouldn't need anything off of that other carrier. I believe the tone ring is the same. And I also believe I've done one of these in the past without removing the tone ring. It's gonna take a little persuasion to get that ring gear off of there. I'm almost certain. Very nice. Nice, very nice shape. Alrighty, 21 millimeter. Woo, that thing is hot. Heavy, my father used to say. What's wrong, is that thing heavy? Say, no, it's hot. He'd say, well, you sure dropped it like it was heavy. I got all new bolts, don't worry guys. They take a little persuasion to get off. More trash. Your rear end's dirty. Well, there's your problem, lady. There's a little Eric O humor for you. I don't know if he'd take it that far. Now we'll flop this over and we're gonna clean everything up and prep it for all the new stuff. Okay, so got some real fine, well it's 400, it's like an emery paper. We're gonna take and just clean this up a little bit. Get rid of some of this debris. This really isn't gonna remove anything at all. As you see, I'm having trouble even cutting through the grease. Really, let me get some brake cleaner. We'll get you clean, lady. Beautiful shape. Never any issues there before, I can tell you that much. I know I'm a little excessive on my prep, but I found in the past that if you miss something, the run out will show you later. It's fantastic, guys. Let that air dry over here for a moment. I'm gonna grab the new ring gear for you guys. Here she is in all of her beauty. take a little verification here. $41. Alright. Now we want to look close to this maintenance surface, just like we checked this one, you know? You want to check this one. What I usually do, I take a flat block. Hit it real quick. You'll see like the shiny spots. This one actually looks really good so far. Once I get most of this stuff off of there, a little wet sanding action, how about that? Whew, that's got some brake cleaner on it. Thanks. Burn. A couple divots, but that's like knocked down. Seems like everything's coming off pretty good and true. You ever wet sand with brake cleaner before? So what we're looking for is any real high spots, you know? Make sure you get everything out of them holes. There's different ways, thoughts are going to vary on how to properly install this ring gear. Some people put it in the oven, heat it up, put the carrier in the freezer, I don't know. There's a lot of different ways of doing it, and I've tried them. And today's method is I'm going to just draw them in with the bolts. I've done this many times in the past, and it works fine. It is much nicer if you put this ring gear, heat it up, it'll expand, drop right on, and you're good to go. Unfortunately, I don't have that option today. We made sure this surface is looking good. Now if you had a nice flat glass surface or something, you could really lap this in much better. Sometimes during the heat treat process the edges tend to roll, but I'm thinking this one is in good shape. I took some of the old bolts. Now we're going to use new ones, we're going to use Loctite, but I'm going to use these old bolts to draw it up tight. They are wire wheel, they are the correct thread. I verified everything fits smooth. It should be good. Staying clean is key. This can be difficult. You almost got to start a few bolts in it, regardless of how you do it. Meaning on a press or drawing it in with the bolts. I also got the new bolts here. As you see, they don't quite reach. My center line isn't right on my press. It's offset. I could get into like right about here. I would much rather be putting this in a press right now with a couple blocks of wood, pushing it down. You could even assist it with the bolts, but unfortunately, this is the way we're going to do it. If you feel it binding, stop. If you feel it binding at all, stop. Go to another bolt. Just keep on taking that slack up. Abracadabra. Now we're going to put the new bolts in. They already got Loctite applied to them. I'm going to apply a little bit more. Shh, don't tell me. They have something on the threads already, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be very much into the thread, so I'm just going to put a little extra here. I know a lot of people use red Loctite on this. I've been using blue for a long time, and can't say I ever, that I know of, had one come apart. I'm not sure how long ago I ran out of space. I'm hoping I captured everything up to this point. But as you see, I got it mocked up in this vise. You don't have to tighten it up, you just got to keep it from spinning. I got it torqued already. Tight. Just keeping it from spinning. And do that around the whole perimeter, get them all nice and tight. This one's done. All right, now I'm ready to press the bearings onto the carrier. As you can see, we went out, we got the parts directly from Ford. But what I did notice, if you want to save yourself some money, these are Timken bearings. N as in Nancy, P as in Paul, 343 847. Timken outer race. N as in Nancy, P as in Paul, 372019. Just in case you want to do some comparison, the bearing was 4221. This is the top one. They charged me $36.57 a piece. I didn't buy two of everything. The cone, second one down, $18.66. Stuff adds up quick, but well, in hindsight, I guess I could have used this. Press the ring gear on, but I hadn't yet placed it up on it. But we're past that step now. But for next time, I know there's no turning back. So we're gonna press the bearings on now. I'm gonna dry press them. In other words, I'm not gonna use any oil. Everything's cleaned up. We should be good to go. So when pressing a bearing on, you always want to press on the race that's being pressed on to whatever it's being pressed on to. So in other words, we don't want to press down on this cage because it's just going to destroy it. So you want to press on that inner race. But you also usually want to find something that'll slide over whatever you're pressing on as well. These press on relatively flush. The only thing that's usually sticking out the top is the taper part that helps you get going flush. So what I found in the past is you use an old race, and you can't get any better than that. Then with that, you use something to press against that race. And the hardest part is getting it started straight. Even with a press, you can still get started crooked. Okay, we're all the way down. As you see, when you're done, everything is golden. Alright, so what I want to do next is make sure if I flip this over to press the opposite bearing on, that I'm not pressing down against this outer cage, because we're only going to destroy the bearing if we do so. And I'm going to determine that. Now, if this carrier shaft is higher than this bearing, then we're golden. If this rubs, then I'm going to have to place something here. And I know these are super close from the past. I'm pretty sure I usually, yeah, see, so it's pretty much the same level, but I don't want to take that chance. So what I'll do is, I believe I have one more of these. I'll flip it around and set it on that like so. And I got it positioned super close to center. I can tell I'm good because I can spin that bearing without any resistance. I got it centered pretty much perfect on the press. She's down. Old Arbor press pulls through. I might go over this ring gear and see if I could dress it up a little bit, but it really feels good. I don't see any spots, but I'll look it over really close, and it's highly recommended that you do, because you never know. In addition, I know a lot of you guys might be wondering why I didn't take the whole center section of the differential apart. It's because it came out of a known good rear, and for me to stack all that clutch pack and pull all this stuff out, it's going to set me back another pretty big expense that we just don't have at this time. It's going to be as close to perfect as I could get it at this point. Alright, now in this next step, we're going to install the races into the housing of the rear. There's a few different ways of doing this. I'm trying to think of some methods outside of the box that you guys might have to use. Generally use a seal driver, or a bearing driver, I should call it. This kit can be used for both. That one there seems like it'll be perfect. You put it on there, hammer it together. Most likely that's going to be the method we use. However, what you could do, if you had yourself a piece of all thread, put a piece of all thread through there, or a long enough bolt with long enough threads, of course, and you can actually draw the races into each other nice and even without pounding on them. That's a nice method to use. But these things are hardened, guys. It's going to be very hard to damage them. Now, if you try hitting on it with a punch or something, now then you might chip it. That's going to be what happens. You're going to shatter it before you really do too much damage, is my experience anyway. Another way to do it, if you have a set of old bearings, use them as your driver. Actually, I prefer this method sometimes over the race drivers, because these fit perfect. And as you're tapping, just turn it a little bit, turn it a little bit. They're made for each other. This will drive it in just fine. If you have to, use this punch with a flat side. You know, put it on there like that. Tap it in. Same thing with this. If you had yourself a setup, you could get yourself a set of bearings, make yourself up some kind of screw, and pull your races in tight. That's another way to do it. One more thing you might run into, your drivers might be too small for this big race. At that point, your best bet is to get a bearing, and especially this inner one, it's hard to drive it in. It really is. It's hard to reach. But if you get yourself a bearing like this, you get the backside of your driver, you're going to drive that in without damaging your race. And in this case, that's what you're going to see me doing. I could use this, you know. It goes in. it stops. It, you know, it seats it. This will seat it. It's aluminum. This is hardened steel. The hardened steel is going to win. You're going to damage your seater before anything, and you can see it's catching the ledge. But I'm not sure if it's the flat that's catching or the edge. Don't get me wrong, this will drive it in. I just want to throw that out as another option, just to leave it, you know, a window of opportunities. You could do many things to accomplish the same job. And a lot of times when you knock out a bearing race, you can nick the actual seat, and you can knock it out a few thousandths, and then it'll be off, and maybe later on start hammering itself flat, only to create problems down the road. So if you do come across a spot that is raised, like in this spot, that's actually the opposite direction. I'm not sure what, maybe it is raised a little bit, but what I'll take is a piece of emery cloth, and I'll knock down that high spot, and then I'll run it around that race or inner race seat and see if I find any more high spots. I already did the opposing side. All right, trying to give you the best shot possible here. Tammy has done a fabulous job cleaning this rear up. Thank you.
Thanks.
First thing you're going to want to do is make sure everything is started true. You know, we went and we cleaned everything up nice, so we want everything to go in nice and smooth. So I got my driver. We're gonna get that started like that, aka cleaning lady.
Yeah.
Today. She's been tremendous help. Okay. You'll hear it go solid once you bottom out. But what we want to do to verify that we're completely seated against that back ledge that we cleaned up earlier, we're going to get ourselves a set of feeler gauges. We're going to go in there and make sure we can't fit our smallest gauge in between the race and that ledge. As long as everything is flush and true, you shouldn't be able to fit your feeler gauge through that. All right, not sure if you can see in there. Got myself a set of feeler gauges. I'm just going to pull my 3/1000 gauge out. And we want to stick it in there. I'm not sure what you're going to be able to see, but you want to get behind that ledge and make sure you can't fit that between the bearing and that back ledge. And you want to do that all the way around that perimeter. We're going to repeat the same process on this side. Get it started square. Okay. For fitting this bearing, so I did actually went through my stock and found I did have another used bearing laying around from an old mock-up job. So at that point, I have no problem using this bearing to drive this in. Heard that change? No need to go any further because you are bottomed out. And that looks fantastic. Can I have a piece of paper towel? Or I'll get one. Hang on. Oh, you got one. Look at you.
Always prepared.
Never doubted you. All right, next I'll go in and I'll make sure we cannot fit a feeler gauge in that back ledge like I showed you on the opposing side. Once we know we're good there, I'll take and I'll spray this down. Well, I'll have Tammy spray it down one more time with brake cleaner. We'll blow it out with air, and then we'll start the magic. This is when the magic happens, guys. We're getting close. Now we're getting ready to assemble the rear. You're going to need some specialty tools in addition to a basic concept on what we're trying to accomplish. And I'm going to try my best to step you through my thought process along the way. One thing that's going to come in handy is a set of veneer calipers, micrometer to measure your shims. You're going to need an inch-pound torque wrench. It can't be the click style. It's got to be the beam or a dial gauge. The bore gauges, they're handy to have for when we go to set the tool that we're going to use, but we can accomplish that if you machine the same tool as I got here. So the way this works is we're going to set our pinion depth next. However, we need to know what size shim to use to get it the correct depth inside of the rear. Well, I'm going to have to apologize, guys. I'm going to have to take a break here from editing. I took the day off. Today's July 14th, and it just so happens that I was born on this day 38 years ago. I'm not sure when this video is going to post because it has to go through rendering and all. The job is complete, and I promise to get you the next half up, the next portion, the final portion, up as soon as possible. You're not going to have to wait nearly as long. That's a promise, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Take care, and I'll catch you next time.